We're looking for keys for handling challenging real estate transactions, specifically like three things to know, to never say when someone is emotionally upset. And then this roller coaster ride of real estate, what are things that you shouldn't say?
Welcome to the Jennifer J. Hammond Podcast. Jennifer is a licensed realtor, educator, speaker, and best-selling author. Jennifer's goal is to help you find your yay in every day.
Hello, it's Jennifer Hammond. And look, I've got my guest, Gavin Frye. He's here. Oh my gosh, we have such a challenge on our hands. This real estate market, it's just really challenging people. It's like interest rates are going up. The house prices seem to be coming down. There's not very much inventory. People don't know what to do. So we're looking for keys for handling challenging real estate transactions, specifically like three things to know, to never say when someone is emotionally upset. And then this roller coaster ride of real estate, what are things that you shouldn't say?
What I want to start off with is the entire framing of how I view real estate transaction and an agent is building relationship. You're always building a relationship. And each relationship with each client is different. Some people may be troubled by the current market. Some may not be. And in addition to the market, some people may be going through a divorce. That's why they're selling their home. Some people may be running out of money and facing that anxiety. But selling a home and moving are two of the biggest life stressors. So a real estate agent, you're there during a life passage where not only your expertise in real estate, which is essential, but your presence, your caring, your ability to listen, your ability to be a guide, you're a teacher, you're a leader. It's a much larger art and craft, the way I view it, than just I'm a real estate agent. So the key is people, when they're going through this passage, can be emotional. Yeah. And if there's two people involved and they're going through a divorce, they could be emotional in different ways. They could disagree. They could be fighting with each other through the transaction. You don't want to take sides. That's very important. You want to listen, and you really want to hear them say, I can totally understand how you'd feel that way. I went through a similar experience, and you meet them. There's something very powerful about listening and simply being heard so someone can move through the emotions that they have. They want a safe space and they want empathy.
I think that is so well said. And what you said in the beginning is, I want to emphasize a little extra, and that's that you're building a relationship. And one of the most important things for me, I've always been super curious about people. It's just part of who I am. Yeah, I'm always curious. And so I lean into relationships, for as much as people will let me. I mean, some people have gotten to know the clients really, really well, and we've become really good friends. We've traveled the world together. And I mean, just really, it's been transformational kind of relationships. And one of the things I heard someone say that, and I thought, wow, that's a great thing, because it's not a transactional relationship. It's not about, hey, I need to get you through this so that I can make some money.
Right.
And I think that feeling has come across with a lot of real estate agents over many years, that they're just trying to get you through the process so that they can make some money, make a living. Right. And I think what you just said about that communication of making sure that when you're talking to your clients, you're building on that relationship and they feel that they were heard, and they feel that there was empathy there for whatever is happening. Because as you know, a real estate transaction, whether you're selling, you're buying, whether it's you just got married, or whether you're getting a divorce, or what it is, it's a change.
Yeah, that's right.
Everybody deals differently with change, right? Right.
Well, what I love hearing you say is that you've given yourself permission to be intimate and close with your clients. I, as a counselor, they coach us when we're trained. Don't have a personal relationship. I don't think that's accurate. I don't think that's helpful. I don't even think it's realistic. I think the exchange can be mutual. And you're right. Some people are willing to get close. Some are not. But the more you build a deeper, genuine relationship, it'll facilitate the sale. They'll also, this is a gold mine that you and I both know, and I think it's important to say it explicitly. Referrals come from positive relationship experience. They just come. I've always had my practice. It's from word of mouth. It's the best kind. People just come right in and you pick up. So really, If you want to be a successful real estate agent financially and business wise, build sincere relationship, and each one is unique. And I love what you accentuated about curiosity. You're curious. There's no cookie cutter in a real estate transaction. Everyone is very unique, and you could have smooth sailing all the way to the end and hit a major hurdle. And it's how you handle the hurdle and how you are honoring them while you handle the hurdle that will stand out.
Exactly. And I think part of that is you need to be able to slow down and ask questions to see where they are, because they may have been going 90 miles an hour with you through the transaction, but you never know what their day was or what happened. And their life and what's happening to them is also part of how they're going to react to the challenge, shall we say. It's not always necessarily bad news, but it could be a big challenge that needs to be worked through.
Sure. And you mentioned about your curiosity. I would imagine for you, Jennifer, intuition is also something you've come to more and more trust. It's like you're starting to talk about business with a client, and all of a sudden you're aware, is there something you'd like to talk about? I'm here. Are you doing okay? And you just ask that, and the door can swing open, and then there's an opportunity to strengthen the relationship. I'm not saying we're building a friendship, but this is a very intimate transaction. It matters. It's sacred to people. Some people have memories their entire life with their house. They don't even want to sell it, or their father died, but they lived in the house. There's memories. This is a deeply human exchange and a passage people are walking through.
Well, and I love that you said that, because that part of it so often is overlooked by the real estate agent, but also the other part of it. And it was the financial, is the money side of it. And no matter what, rich, poor, in between, money is a sensitive topic. And one of the first things I was a mentor, actually. So I've been in real estate 26 years. And I remember one of my very first mentors said to me, you should always ask permission to talk about money. And I thought, what an interesting thing to say. And what I've done is I have done that my whole career. I try to make sure that before we ever dive into how much can you spend or how much you putting down or any aspect of money that we just so crassly just go crashing into. That's not something that many people are comfortable talking about. And partly because there's this evaluation and it feels a little bit like an invalidation. Like even when you're talking with somebody about their credit score, nobody's had a perfect thing. And the credit, I do whole classes on credit. It's a bot. It's a computer algorithm that is evaluating you. And so it's not fair for some of the numbers that they come up with. And it's not fair for you to judge yourself on that. So how do we talk about money? How do we talk about credit scores, where it again gives you, as you said earlier, how do we create that safe space so we can have a real conversation and not a surface one? We can have again, not a transactional relationship, transformational, so that you actually are transformed. You feel like you're being surrounded by love and care, and nothing is being exposed, or that you're going to be vulnerable and someone's going to make you feel bad.
Yes. And your framing of it as you were guided to ask permission. Even if you sense the answer will be yes, the fact that you ask and say, there's something about finances. Can I take a risk with you and talk about something that I think is really important for us to talk about? Can we do that? And you ask permission, people often will swing the doors open versus get surprised. And you may not even be malintent. You may be sensitive, but specifically, with my clients, they come to me for help and my feedback. But when I'm in a sensitive area that we're dealing with, I go, can I offer you another possibility to consider here? I always ask. I'll be working with someone sometimes for 5 years. They'll go, you keep asking that. I go, I will keep asking each time because I honor you. You're human. This is sensitive. This time, are you ready for me to do it? And I'll ask. And having risky, courageous conversations is often the key to a highly competent real estate agent.
I agree. And one of the things I wanted to dig a little deeper into, which I know you know well, is when someone's dealing with loss. So we talked about with real estate transactions, a lot of times they're going through a challenge, but I've had plenty of real estate agents where the loss is a death. So it was maybe a parent who died, and now I have 4 siblings who are not necessarily willing to agree on all sorts of things, and we've got loss. It's loss, and it's a very intimate loss. And so, what are ways that we can really help those clients when they're going through loss?
One thing to remember is, I'll use as an example, a marriage. So when I counsel a couple, or when you sell a house to a couple, or an agent sells a house, there are 2 different marriages. They're each having their own experience. They each need to be heard. It's not about there was one marriage and everybody agrees. So if you've got 4 siblings who have to come to the table and reckon with how to proceed and come into a unified direction, your job as the agent is to be able to hear each one of them. And what you want to steer clear from is having an opinion about what reality is. They need to know, each of them, that you hear them. Oh, for you, like I'm going back to your curiosity. Oh, for you, you're thinking that if we price the house really high, we'll get the most money. And I know I shared that if we go lower and then we get bids, it may go higher. But I want to make sure I hear you. Is that what you're saying?
Very well said.
When they're heard, they can move off a position versus defending the position.
Exactly. Oh, that is so well said. I love that you said that, because they are so emotionally, like, you have no idea what's right below that surface. I mean, I've had more than once where I walked in and it's the day of closing and we went to do our final walkthrough and nobody moved anything out of the house. And you're like, wait a minute, this is supposed to be a vacant property now. But the siblings couldn't agree on who was getting what. And you're like, wow, this would have been a great thing to know about, you know, a couple of days ago, rather than the day of settlement, the hour I'm going over there. And I think that, again, it goes back to, how do you communicate with the people who are in there who are dealing with loss, because they're not acting the way they would have a week ago before the loss, or a month ago before the loss.
No, and when they're in loss, or when they're scared, or when they're hurt, they can be defensive, they can be stressful. They have their patterns that show up just like all of us do when we're under stress. So in a way, a real estate agent is like a mediator amongst all the different parties. And I will say, and I suspect you're like this, Jennifer, you're a student and you're always learning. So each transaction will teach you things. And then a month later, you'll have something similar. You go, I see the tripwire here, and I got it. The other thing, and I suspect you do, is that you have mentors around you that you can intuitively, you go, I'm going to need some input, some coaching on this, because I haven't faced this before. And it's important to acknowledge that, reach out to somebody who can coach you, and also say to the client, you know, I don't know yet the answer to your question, but it's important we get accurate information. Let me get back to you.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that is so important, to be able to, again, I want to say, feel vulnerable as a real estate agent as well. If you don't know the answer, don't lie. This is not the time to make it up. No, it's not. And you mentioned the word vulnerability. I think vulnerability is a very powerful, dynamic quality as a real estate agent. Some people think they're supposed to be invulnerable, but let's say you even make a mistake. You said, look, I thought our appointment was at 1. I made a mistake. I apologize. And you show that you're human. It builds the relationship. You don't have to be perfect. You can even say, I'm going through something in my own life. I need to be with my son at school, and I'm sorry. And I hope you can understand, but I need to be. And then people will typically work with us if we're vulnerable about what's really going on. Absolutely. I remember my mom died of cancer, and I was right in the middle of like 5 real estate transactions. And it was hard to be completely vulnerable. And yet, I was not willing to just walk away and hand everything over to another agent, because I was too involved and I knew too many of the nuances. But but it was very difficult to stand in front of them. And my clients were amazing. And I will never forget some of those moments. And they were with my clients. They were not like with my, my buddies, my girlfriends, my friends, it was those clients that really were outstanding and moments, again, that I'm so glad I was vulnerable and that I didn't pretend, oh no, it wasn't like my mom just died,
Right. Or you might even have started crying at times and you said, I'm sorry, this is just really, really difficult for me. And I hope you can understand. And people just respond often so beautifully.
Yeah. People love it when you're real. I think the thing is I just have always, as I said, I'm always curious and I'm really interested in helping people. And for me, I think that comes from, we lost our home when I was a kid. And I realized, wait a minute, why? Well, because my parents were not willing to confront the financial difficulties they were having and not willing to talk about it. And so for me, it's really, really important that we find a way to communicate and that we work through whatever comes up, because we know, as you just said, every single deal, every single transaction is going to be different, but we can find a way through it. We just have to keep on communicating.
And I suspect, I don't know, you can tell me from your experience, but people are so involved in the immediacy of their particular situation with the sale of a house, but often they are going somewhere. Their life is going in a new direction. They may be moving. They may be heading for a divorce. They may be whatever it is, and asking people, I'm just curious, once all of this is completed, can you tell me a little bit about where you're headed, what your dreams are, and take that part of them in? It'll strengthen your alliance with them.
Well, and also understand what's the best way to continue that relationship, because, as we said, it's important to continue that relationship. Yes, I have been so blessed. I joke sometimes when people ask me, well, what's your best marketing strategy? And I'm like, well, it's not what most people do, because I just love to keep in touch with my old clients. And like I said, sometimes I travel the world with them.
Yes.
I've gotten to know so many of them, and they just automatically send me people. And sometimes I forget. I'm like, oh, I forgot I should ask for referrals, but I never do. And part of that, I think, is again, just being there when people really need it, including, and you mentioned this before, and I want to go a little bit deeper, is being that expert, really knowing what people need to know. Like right now, the market is changing every day, and you need to be able to be there about the market and not be, I'm not really sure. You need to have confidence in your knowledge and do whatever you need to. If you need to go see 50 houses this week, you need to make sure you're out there and you've seen everything that's on the market and you're really familiar so that you can give advice that they can count on you. Yes. It's not like you can just, again, you don't bluff it. You have to be competent.
Yeah. So there's a dedication that's required to have a pulse beat of what's really happening. And then your confidence comes from that dedication and those efforts. I will tell you, when we met and we talked about me coming on the show, the reason I was so excited about it is because I was going through a divorce after 25 years. And I was going through selling our house with my ex-wife, and we loved that house. And we also had a son that had mental illness and a serious drug abuse. And he was in the house and he did not want to leave the house. So the agent that we had not only knew her real estate, but she was so caring and so empathic. I don't know how we'd have gotten through it without it. And I remember I gladly did a video testimonial for her, and it came right out of the center of my heart. Yeah.
And that's so powerful. And I thank you for sharing that, because I think the thing is so often we as real estate agents, we have a lot of things that we have to kind of go through with our clients, but so often nobody ever knows other than just us who are involved in that part. So thank you for doing that video testimonial for her, because I know exactly how much that means going forward. And I think sometimes, I don't know. I think that as real estate agents, when we know we've gone through a rough one, we're always like cringing a little bit on, okay, so what is their lasting impression? Are they focused on the bad? Because again, I don't control the market. I don't control so much of what happened. in here, but I can tell you many times I've gotten blamed for it.
Yes. Well, and the thing that I was left with is it was who she was as a person that meant all the difference. And when I was talking to her about my challenges, she also confessed that she had been through some things with divorces. She understood. So any of the real estate agent's personal life journey and learning and healing and growth, all of those can be brought to bear into the relationship with clients.
Yep, exactly. Well, we're just out of time. I want to make sure that people know how to get your book and find out about you on social media. How do they get in touch with you?
Sure. My website is very simple, gavinfrye.com, GAVINFRYE.com. My book is just out now, is The Real You, Leading Your Life from Your Authentic Self. It would be great for real estate agents. And that's all. They can contact me through those avenues. It'd be a pleasure. If anybody wants to reach out, I'm here.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for sharing your heart and your stories today. And even your divorce. That was amazing to share that. And so, I always end my episodes with a yay. So will you lift your voice and say yay with me?
Of course.
Yeah. Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Yay!
Hi, I'm Jack Canfield. You may know me as the co-author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. And if you